Foley, the man who championed the Child Protection Act of 2006, resigned after inappropriate emails and instant messages surfaced that he sent to former congressional pages.
Once more, no charges were even filed.
Foley himself has checked into rehab. No one has been charged with any crime.
The predator class acts like Roman emperors, indulging in excess that includes sex with young boys while portraying themselves as men of the Lord. The insanity is that we have allowed an interwoven elite criminal class to rule over us while posing as the saviors of the planet. We have learned they will stop at nothing to achieve their goals and are not held accountable for their crimes. They prey on the system rather than protect it. This is not a new world order of peace and prosperity. It is not a world government to save the earth. During difficult times, we must remain ever vigilant against seemingly positive solutions imposed to suit their aim.
If you believe in this information and want to support its viral spread, go to the INFOWARS store at INFOWARS.com. We've got the new G.I. Joe INFOWARS t-shirts. We've got the incredible Pro Pure gravity-fed filters available at INFOWARS.com in the store. We've got a new DVD, Scientists Under Attack, the Don't Tread on Me flag. We've got all sorts of different bumper stickers to help spread the rebellion virally. It's all there, wristbands, citizen rule books in every order. Order online at INFOWARS.com today. The water filters, the canteens, it's all there, INFOWARS.com. And we are back. It's INFOWARS Nightly News on this November 10th, Thursday edition. I wanted to have fellow Austinite and patriot Eddie Craig in studio because in the last few years I've listened to his local radio show that can also be heard on the internet and learned a lot from it. I've studied the law quite a bit and learned about common law, Bill of Rights, Constitution. I've studied the court cases that traveling locomotion is not a privilege, it's a right. I've learned about the Fourth Amendment, you name it. But when I listen to Eddie Craig, he can teach us so much more, but especially about state laws and traffic violations and what this whole police state's doing. And Eddie woke up similarly the way I did. When I was in high school, I saw police dealing drugs in Dallas and exposed it and was threatened. Eddie, as a Nacogdoches sheriff's deputy, saw a lot of corruption, things missing from the drug locker, and spoke out against it, and also revenue generation, and they came after him. So he'll be a guest from time to time here because he does live in Austin. But I thought in this short interview tonight on INFOWARS Nightly News, we'd get him to just basically give you a snapshot of who he is and his awakening, and then really break down what's happened in our society, this road to tyranny. What is tyranny? So, Eddie, thanks for being here with us tonight. First off, spend a few minutes telling your story from the inside a sheriff's department and watching the local police department, and then expand out into how you would, in layman's terms, describe the process of going from a free society into an oppressive, tyrannical society. Because earlier, when we were standing around the water cooler after the radio, you had a good parable to basically describe that to people.
All right. I'm originally an active duty Air Force member. I spent 14 years active duty in the Air Force. That's when I got my first real exposure to the way government actually operates from the inside. When I got out of that, I actually became a Nacogdoches Sheriff's Deputy. I worked inside the county jail. I worked with other individuals. I've worked with the local police officers there, and the people that I worked with, for the most part, were honest, hard-working people. They didn't really understand everything that was going on. They didn't even understand the laws associated with their job. And I'm one of these type of people that I don't settle for being second best at something. I may be second best, but it won't be because I settle for it. So I spent a lot of my time reading and studying the actual statutes that we were expected to enforce. I was also doing it for the purpose of when I was working inside the jail, when these inmates would be brought in and booked, I wanted to know with relative certainty what the actual offense was they were being charged with, and so on and so forth, just for my own satisfaction. And it came to my attention that a lot of the people that were being brought in for things like public intoxication, traffic citation arrests, and so on and so forth, were being illegally brought into jail under false pretenses by both the Sheriff's Department, the DPS, and the local municipal police department there in Nacogdoches where I live, or did live before I came to Austin. But the more I noticed this, the more I started asking questions about it. And the real thing that got me out of the job there, per se, was I actually caught one of my supervisors misusing public funds and property. He was actually doing his resume for one of the larger police departments in Dallas using county property. He was using the county booking camera, the county film supply, and basically everything to send out all these huge, fancy, picturesque resumes of himself to all these big municipalities because he wanted to get out of the small towns.
Was he also stealing the time?
Yes, he was. He was doing all this on the time when he should be working. He's in there doing this for his own personal business. And then he crashed the booking computer and asked me to help him fix it, which I didn't do.
So that's dereliction of duty. It's stealing time and resources.
It's embezzlement is what it is. And yeah, and it's actually misuse of public funds and property. And when he saw that I understood what had happened and how it had happened, he sent me home early off of my shift, and then he actually went to our immediate supervisors the next morning and reported that I was the one that had caused the booking computer crash, even though I hadn't been the one that was on it. And when I tried to bring up the fact that it was this individual that had caused this problem and what he was doing in the interim, that's when they threatened me with jail and everything else if I wouldn't leave.
So the cover-up kicked in, and of course this is a microcosm of, say, Penn State, where for 18 years they've been covering it up and going after the police officers and people that tried to expose it. And that's a microcosm of the big mega banks controlling all the regulators and persecuting people at the SEC that blew the whistle. I mean, it's I guess a system of where you went after something relatively petty, but they then tried to persecute you, making it something bigger, because undoubtedly there was more going on above that.
Well, they compounded it with the fact that I'd bringing up these other issues where I believe these arrests were being done illegally, which of course affects the revenue generation, especially on the traffic citation side. Most of these arrests that were occurring were on a citation basis, and each one of those citations is worth X amount of dollars in revenue to the city. Basically, the laws of Texas are set up where a city gets to keep up to 50% of the amount of money collected in these fines and fees, while the other 50% goes to the state. So you can honestly say that the municipalities and the counties, their revenue generation is sanctioned by the state because it's a profit-sharing program. So the state won't interfere with it unless the individual causes such a stink as to make them have to look twice at the issues. That's where I come into play. My job is to educate people on what the actual law is. Here's what you're being told. Here's what it actually says. Here's how they're misusing it against you in order to commit fraud and to steal. They're basically taxing the people of Texas untold millions of dollars a year in fines and fees that don't even apply to us, that they should never have been allowed to apply to us. And compounded with these other things, yeah, that's one of the reasons they don't really like me over in that part of Texas anymore. That and the fact that I also went directly after the state comptroller's office for illegally forcing small unincorporated businesses to collect sales tax. Basically, there's no law in Texas that requires an unincorporated business to collect sales tax on behalf of the state. The state does not pay the individual to do it. The state does not in any way compensate them for doing it. Basically, they're forcing you into indentured servitude as their unpaid tax collector. It's on your dime that you have to take the time to accumulate the money, prepare the reports, file the reports, and pay in the money, and that's all out of your pocket, and the state doesn't compensate you in any way for it. That, in my book, is indentured servitude. When I challenged the state on this, that's when they begin raiding my business under false pretenses, SWAT style. They actually raided my computer repair service business 3 separate times at gunpoint. You would think they were raiding one of the largest drug labs in all of Texas the way they came in there.
And again, this is the law. You were telling me earlier about the case here in Austin that they've now won with these golf carts that drive people around for no money but a tip if they want to give it. And the police had no statute to be even giving them tickets. They've now been defeated in court, but they won't run that on the news. But we're going to get to that in a moment. Define for people the process of going from liberty to tyranny and how it takes place.
Well, it takes place over time. If they actually tried to do it all at once, the people would see it for what it is and rise up against it. That much I honestly believe. But over generations, what they've done, they have slowly indoctrinated us into accepting this is the way things are. They teach it to our kids in school. They teach it to the teenagers in college. They teach it to the adults now that have grown from that generation on up. And it's been a slow over time type of thing. And we've come to accept it where now we've got the public servants have now tried to convert our society of being from their attitude of being a servant into their attitude of being the master of the people. They've completely done a role reversal on the way our republic was set up. The analogy I believe I gave you in relation to this was when a rancher fails to control the coyote population on his ranch, he will see a direct inverse proportion in population to his livestock to the increase in population of the predatory base. So if he fails to keep that predatory base culled down, then he loses money, he loses control of his property, and he eventually gets done in by that. And what we've got now is the state, instead of becoming the servant and protecting the rights of the people as we set them up, they have become the predator. And we, the people, are not keeping that predatory base minimized.
And that's what the founders warned us about.
Exactly.
It's common sense. It happens in every culture, and every form of classical tyranny is now being set up, but they've gone further, adding all this high-tech grid to it. And now in all these training manuals that good police have sent us that have made national news, they say, returning veterans of the enemy, gun owners, libertarians, people that talk about the Constitution, these common law people, these pro se litigants, these libertarians. Well, we're the real Americans. I mean, we are the people who are following what the Republic was set up for, that produced all this wealth and freedom and private property. And we've literally got this occupational foreign corporate takeover, the New World Order, looting and stealing everything now publicly. And then they've gone and brainwashed the cops and told them these are the bad guys. Exactly. I mean, it's incredible, and now it's coming to a head. But we've got a lot of new viewers out there. Millions, end up watching this one way or another, these shows. We have the PrisonPlanet.tv viewers, but then it goes out later to YouTube and all the other channels. And a lot of times I see comments in the videos like, well, the cops have got to spy on you without a warrant because they want to get the bad guys. But meanwhile, the government's caught shipping guns into Mexico, drugs back in. The troops grow the opium in Afghanistan. I mean, it's so corrupt, I can't even describe it. And they're actually, the corruption's taking over now where if you're against the evil, you're bad. They openly say, you're evil because you can see. You've got the They Live sunglasses on. But for the lay folks out there, citing court cases, whatever, give people 4 or 5 examples of the way it is under common law, Constitution, and in the last 100 years, the way it's been put into the opposite, inverse position.
Well, under the original concept of the Constitution, the people themselves were in charge, and basically you and I could only go to each